Good morning, everybody. My name's Michael J. Long, and thank you for joining me. Today is August the 12th, 2011, and today I want to talk about why today. First off, I want to reframe on my 9/11 video, the one that I made on the top. And of course, the stage terror talk. What I want to add, which I forgot to add, is that evidence points towards all that. The Gulf attack and the 9/11 attack and the government being paid off and the terrorists and all that other stuff. But aside from that, I want to talk about, and not everybody in the government and especially the federal government plays any particular role in doing these kinds of things. You know, at least most of them don't participate in doing stage terror, but some do. And at least that's what the evidence points towards, according to people like Alex Jones and Jesse Ventura. And the evidence is right there in their books and in their documents and stuff, or in documents that they found and stuff like that. But I want to move on to why I'm supporting Ron Paul. And as you know, Ron Paul is against the Federal Reserves, and he is against illegal immigration, but he goes about it in a different way than me, at least slightly different, but somewhat similar. Now, before I carry on about Ron Paul, first let me provide what I think should be and ought to be done with immigration, and how to deal with illegal immigration. Just to start, now that we're on this subject, and that's to say that first off, the federal government, okay, what it should do, if it's going to have any involvement in the federal government, is yes, implement the E-Verify program, arrest employees that knowingly hire illegal aliens and send them off to jail, and then have them, and then gather the illegal aliens to prove as evidence. If they're working illegally as undocumented immigrants, or if they're here committing criminal offenses, take all the recent ones, all the criminal-minded ones, bring them through a court of law, give them a fair trial, but put judges in those spots, put judges and jurors in that spot that will enforce the laws that are on the book regarding with immigration. So, and anyways, I go on about it. And then, let them serve 50 years in prison, and deportation, second offense, ban them all together, 60-year sentence, what have you. But give all the ones that have been here for the past 20 or 30 years illegally, give them a pathway to legal residence, which in a sense is documented status, making them a documented immigrant and not U.S. citizen. And if they want U.S. citizen, well, they're on their own. Okay, now Ron Paul, I guess, since I heard I guess he doesn't want, per se, he doesn't want them to have amnesty. And he's also pointed out that a country without borders is not a country at all. But he also pointed out that the businesses are not the policemen of the world, and that if they want to use E-Verify, it's within their own discretion. That's how he put it, and I kind of disagree with him on that. But I support him on most issues, including many of his aspects on immigration. I also support him on drug legalization and ending and abolishing the Federal Reserves. Which, by the way, I think I can go on, and there's evidence to point out that the Federal Reserves is in fact devaluing the currency. And I guess the way it works is they give you they'll print out $1 trillion. And then they'll come out with all these derivatives that your tax dollars are paying for. And if your politicians don't pay him off on time, and they make sure you don't pay him off on time, they're going to jack up the interest rate to 20 or even 30% and make you pay late fees and all that. And then they'll make it, and then that's going to cause the currency, the devaluation to go up. So they're devaluing the currency. And that's why Ron Paul wants to get rid of it. But Ron Paul wants to abolish the Federal Reserves, but he wants to get it to a point where he can do that. He wants to first audit it. And he wants to, I guess, audit the Federal Reserves, and he wants to audit the Federal Reserves, and then he wants to try to regulate them to the point where they can no longer function, in the hope that they'll self-destruct. If not, he's going to need Congress to repeal the Federal Reserve Act, unless he can come up with a way to do it on his own. And yeah, I also support him on other issues. I support him on abortion. I support him on abortion. I believe in states' rights, and so does he. And I think his philosophy is freedom. His philosophy is liberty. His philosophy is for you to make your own decisions and your own choices. Now I'm not saying that he doesn't believe in any form of regulations on the states or on the federal government. He certainly does. And he certainly does believe in some form of regulation. Not only on the federal government, but on the local, state, and county government. He believes in constitutional enforcement. This is why many Americans, if not all Americans, on the right should vote for him. In my opinion, I think he should be the one to win the Republican primary, and he should be the one to actually be able to kick Obama's butt to the curb and win the White House altogether as president. And overall, I think he will make a good president, compared to Michelle Bachmann and Sarah Palin and Newt Gingrich and Tim Pawlenty and Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum and all the rest of them, and Herman Cain. Now, Herman Cain is somewhat decent compared to the rest of them too. He's somewhat decent compared to the rest of them on stage. But Ron Paul and Gary Johnson, they're the two main guys, they're the best guys for the job. But you know, Fox News and the other guys are excluding Gary Johnson. He may drop out sometime next year before the primaries. I haven't found a total and complete reason to support Gary Johnson, but they do have the same philosophies in almost every case. But nobody's going to agree with each other on 100% of the way. Nobody is. And we are inclined to disagree and agree with each other on many issues and many topics. And I guess that's just the way it is. Well, I guess you could say that it's... Look, I don't want people like, I don't want Barack Obama or Janet Napolitano and all these idiots to come down with their police force to try to arrest me, to throw me in jail or in prison because I attacked the federal government. I don't think that's appropriate. Man, I got into a big argument with my father on it the other day. Because he thinks that I should make it somewhat, and do it in a somewhat respectable manner, to say the least, that it's my opinion or it's evidence points to it or what. They know, the government knows what I'm talking about. They know about the whole 9/11 truth thing and all that. And I shouldn't have to do that. But that, he's going to sit there and tell me to cover my butt. And the police and all that, before the police take me away. Quite frankly, I do see that as fear mongering. But just in case, okay, just in case, for the record, I'm pointing it out. I have a YouTube video, and on my YouTube channel, I got my website linked to it, which I created through webs.com, which is a web server. Okay? And I have every news article I pointed out. It didn't come from my own brain. It came from Infowars.com, Infowars.com, Infowars.net, PrisonPlanet.com, PrisonPlanet.tv, Liberty News Radio, Liberty Roundtable, Fox News, Fox Business, CNN. You know, so for the record, I'm not biased. Do I have some articles from MSNBC? Yeah. Maybe like one or two. But I do have them. And, look. I have also articles and news articles from ChuckBaldwinLive.com and websites with credible sources, where they point out about abortion and immigration and the harms to that. Now, and there's evidence also to suggest, and supposedly, and there's evidence to suggest that the government is going after libertarians, conservatives, or at least that's what I think. Or at least that's what I think is going on. That the federal government is going to make an attempt to go after returning veterans, gun owners, conservatives, libertarians. In fact, this came out in what was called the MIAC report, which was leaked to Chuck Baldwin, who was the Constitution presidential candidate for 2008. It was leaked. It was leaked to him from a Missouri State Police. He sent it off to Alex Jones on Infowars.com. And Drudge Report picked up on it and posted it on their sites. WikiLeaks, they picked up on it, put it on their site. And then one thing led to another. Then all the local news stations across the country, they picked up on it. And then once they've picked up on it, it went viral across many of the local news stations throughout the country and many of the rural areas. Of course, many of the local news stations in the major cities and the major mainstream national corporate media, as well as many of the state medias, they didn't pick up on it. They just completely threw it to the back burner as if it was nothing. Now, yes, the media is biased. For example, and there's evidence to suggest it. I've been listening to the media. I've been listening to all alternative media. I know the difference. And I have yet to, and Chuck Baldwin's rarely been on Fox. And when he was running under the Constitution Party back in 2008, he didn't get much coverage. He didn't get any coverage at all. We were lucky to see Bob Barr and Ralph Nader, who was running under the Libertarian and Independent parties. Okay, and all they cared about was everyone within the Republican Party. And even then, they didn't give Ron Paul all that coverage, all that much coverage back in 2008. And that's in part why he lost. Now, things may change this year. And I'm hoping that Ron Paul wins the 2008, the 2012 presidential elections altogether. Not only am I hoping that he wins the Republican Party primary, I'm hoping he's going to win the White House. That's going to save a lot of complications. But if not, I want to point out that people shouldn't just vote for Republicans or Democrats just because they think they're conservative or liberal, and give the Constitution Party or political third party a shot if you don't trust any of the GOP people on stage. Okay, now I've done a video on that a while back about how it depended on whether or not it was going to be deciphered or not. And let the chips fall as they may, you know, whatever. But you should not be in it to defeat Obama. You should be in it to promote the right guy and put the right guy who you think is the right guy in power. Anyways, my name is Michael J. Long, and again, I do not want to destroy or wipe out the federal government, but I would like to have it reformed. And thank you for joining me, and I appreciate it. Good luck.